I am honored. I love this. I love what we're celebrating together. And I want to give a shout out to somebody that I think embodies all of those characteristics of Martin Luther King Jr. And that is my good friend, former teammate, current Utah Royals player, Imani Dorsey. She is a player who helped found the Black Women's Players Collective, which, Jalil, I know you're familiar with. We've worked with Black Players for Change. It kind of what helped kickstart this in 2020. We were in the bubble, and Imani was the player who corralled all of the players of color to create this. And she has been such an incredible founding member and leader for the group. She's helped continue partnerships with Adidas, U.S. Soccer to help fund mini pitches that allows young Black players of color to come to these pitches, meet the members of the NWSL and the U.S. Women's National Team, and just get visibility and the dream to see yourself in these players' positions. And Imani has been a huge advocate for that. She's also helped create so much for current players in the NWSL for opportunities to go work at these mini pitches, to go speak at the Jackie Robinson Museum, to work in Black community spaces and really make each other feel seen and heard and create a safe space for Black players to be recognized in the NWSL. So I want to give a special shout out to her because I think she encapsulates everything that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. did.
My leader that I have chosen to highlight today needs no introduction, the Marta. Marta has been a UN Women's Goodwill Ambassador since 2018. She has consistently advocated for women and girls, but also women and girls in the sport. But that does not even begin to scratch the surface of what Marta has done. One of the things that sticks out to me in memory is her Players Tribune that she had done talking about when she was a kid in Brazil from humble beginnings, where she had started off and played in a boys' tournament, nutmegging a boy. And the following year, they told her that she was no longer allowed to play in that tournament because she was a girl. She's never, ever once let being a girl, being a woman of color, being queer, being anything, stop her. And she hasn't stopped that from her integrity in the game as a person, but she also embodies MLK's leadership and service to others and integrity in standing up for beliefs, and she's consistently done so. She's never shrunk into spaces. She has worn bright red lipstick and played on the field like any other player, if not better than most men who have played globally. She's been emblematic in this sport to women and girls, and she is absolutely, undeniably a fixture and leader in my world and many others, and for that, Marta.
Christine, really good job this morning. Cool to hear you talk about Marta and celebrate this. Sandra, had you heard or seen that before? Did you watch this morning or see those clips?
No, I'm reacting to it the first time, and I love it. What a great segment, and honestly, what a great duo of players to sort of, pick and say that they kind of represent a little bit about what the person behind this day is all about. So I love that was even a segment. Shout out to whoever kind of like brainchilds that was. And I love that you and Darian were able to choose two different players, that maybe like folks aren't going to think about right away when they think about this day. So it's making me think about like, what are players that maybe like I would have chosen, or like, looking across the landscape. And I think that is what resonates with me the most. The fact that there's probably so many players. There's almost too many that you can't narrow it down to one or two. And I think that's one of the really beautiful things about NWSL as a league in which we cover constantly, that there are so many players within the space who often are trying to capture that spirit of service, that spirit of giving back to the community, that spirit of evoking change and creating that change. So, I mean, the fact that we could really have an endless list of players who do that, I think is really, really symbolic.
It is.
Yeah,
really-
I think if I add anything to that, just as a message today of all days and going forward, is just a reminder of MLK's principle to live with integrity and to continue every single day with that integrity. I think it's going to be an important reminder for all of us moving forward, especially given just the way the world is right now.
Yes, very, very well said. Appreciate it. Everyone in our chat is like loving this. It's really cool. Okay, guys, let's jump into it. We're here to talk women's footy. Let's do it, because we had games back this weekend. Do you know how long I've been waiting to watch women's football? It's been a month. It's been a month. And finally, we get it. We get it. So I was sat for the Barclays Women's Super League this weekend. Finally, after a month-long break, they were back in action. Let me just run through the scores quickly. Liverpool, they escaped with all 3 points after a late Brighton own goal. So they beat Brighton 2-1. Everton and Aston Villa tie 1-1, despite Villa absolutely dominating. But they concede late in the 89th minute via Tricky Sorry, came up big to earn Everton a point. Tottenham in the 4th minute, an own goal gives them a 1-0 win over Leicester. Leicester now winless in their last 6 matches. West Ham, they had to take on Chelsea, and Chelsea crushed 5 goals, and they remain unbeaten. They've netted their 32nd, 33rd, 34th, 35th, 36th goals, 4 different goal scorers, and an own goal. And then we had the Manchester derby. Manchester is red. City fall 2-4 to Manchester United. Ella Toone back from injury. She made up for not scoring since April. She ends up with a hat trick in this one. And United beat City away for the first time ever in the WSL. And United leapfrog City into 3rd place, just 7 points behind Chelsea. And then Arsenal, a 5-0 win over Crystal Palace. Second half, 4 goals for Arsenal. And with that, Arsenal takes 2nd place in the standings. Sandra, across this weekend of Super League, what stood out to you? What game you want to talk about first? I'm letting you run with it today.
Oh man, I'm gonna give the 5-0 Arsenal over Crystal Palace to Cupo because she deserves
The
it.
Herrera Cupo derby.
Oh yeah, exactly. Like let's rename it. Let's put a stamp on it. Let's make it official here today. But listen, I have to absolutely chat a little bit about the Manchester derby for sure, because look, we did a bit of a preview of that on Thursday, and we were all kind of excited about it, that was going to be the game that we were going to try to keep our eyes on. Will or won't Bunny Shaw be available for that? Who's going to have an impact? Turns out that maybe it was going to be Viv Miedema. What was going to come of that? But it was such chaotic energy. Not that I couldn't believe what we were watching, but I don't know if I was anticipating that type of game. Such a struggle to watch Man City kind of constantly try to play out of the back despite those constant struggles. Turnovers leading to goals. It was like, I don't find myself rooting for either of these clubs kind of week in, week out. But at the same time, I found myself very frustrated with Gareth Taylor and Man City. I was like, what are you doing? It was a very, very tough opening half, even argue like opening half hour, quite possibly the worst opening 30 minutes that Man City has played in the entirety of this campaign so far. They made a game of it, thankfully, but at the end of the day, Man United coming out on top. What a game. What a game.
Yeah, this game was actually crazy. I mean, all the goals except one coming in the first half, and from the very start it looked like United was just going to absolutely run away with it. Ella Toone, she gets a brace in the first half, but right before halftime, City come back. It's Miedema, it's their new signing Rebecca Knack, who get 2 headers at the end of the first half, and I was like, okay, this is the City side that we're seeing. Of course, missing big players, right? Lauren Hemp unavailable, Bunny Shaw unavailable for City, and they lacked a lot of urgency in their attacking end. And I thought the second half was going to change things, and it just didn't. United continued to dominate, and ultimately they got another goal to go ahead with the win. But this game was almost unassuming. I was like, I wanted so much more from this, but you have to remember these teams are coming off of a break and they're trying to get back into things, and they need a little bit more time and minutes together. But this game was everything for Manchester United. They needed this. This is now, they're in the standings. It's crazy to think that City, it has now fallen all the way to 4th place after just one match day. I mean, we knew it was close from 2nd to 4th with Arsenal, United, and City, but in just the span of 24 hours, it can all change and throw around. Christine, did you get to take this game in at all?
I did. And like, I get what you're saying. They need some time to come together, but like, this is a derby.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter. You're playing at home, City, at the Etihad. Like, step up. Like, this was genuinely embarrassing. The only performance that really got put in there that was worthwhile was like Viv and maybe Mary Fowler. And everybody
Yeah.
else really
Fowler played well.
underwhelming performance.
Yeah.
What was that, Lise?
I think Fowler played pretty well. There
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
moments where she was cooking, but then isolated on an island. They didn't have a lot of
Yeah.
connectivity for City throughout the game. And
I
I
mean,
mean, Sandra, you said it too, like building out of the back, like as a rough day at the office
Yeah.
for
I was
Kiara
like,
Keegan.
make it stop. And then they kept trying to do it. Tough day.
but yeah, I don't know. For me, once Ella Toon started scoring at a cadence of 20 to 15-minute intervals,
Yeah.
I was like, huh,
You're like, wait a minute.
It's like, can we
perhaps
mark her?
Let him cook. Let him cook.
somebody, yeah, I was like, maybe let her run. I don't
Yeah.
ordinarily say that about Ella Toon. I'm usually like, shut her down. Like, I love to see the demise of a City or a United side, but she was in full form. Also, Miyazawa had a really great game.
Really good
City came together. I mean, City United came together and looked like a team that I don't think we even saw in the first half of the season. Yeah, we'll see if they're going to be a force to be
Yeah.
reckoned with going forward.
It's
But right
still-
now, like, that's a hell of a statement to make coming back into the season and just like absolutely banging on City to where they look like they do not belong in this league.
Yeah, a team though, Chelsea, they stay at the top of the table. They get 5 goals this weekend. Excellent goals for Chelsea. Kat Macario starting the scoring for the Blues in a really fun win over West Ham. But the team that's perhaps closest to catching Chelsea, well, at this point in the standings and in the table, Christine, is Arsenal. And they did so with another win this weekend. They continue to stay on top, but it was 5-0 over Crystal Palace. Only 1 goal in the first 45 minutes, thanks to Leah
Yeah,
Williamson.
but
off
like
the corner.
defender goals. So how does that make you feel, Lisa? I know
Let's
you like those.
go. Let's go. A left back goal. I mean, that's like my jam all day. That's what I was a left back in college. That's what I love to see. But then what changed, Christine? I mean, first half to second half for Arsenal was night and day. Well, what the heck was the difference maker in the second 45?
Oh, yeah. I mean, the beginning, they started off slow. I was kind of like, okay, they're hunting. They're not finishing their chances. The passing looked good, though. And then second half, I don't know what Renée said at the halftime, but like Alessia Russo pulling up and being her, and then Beth Mead right behind her within minutes, scoring those goals. You just started to see the Arsenal that you knew is in there perform to their level. Like, saw Foxy getting up on that right side, getting in there. They're making the right runs. Everything looked like it should have. And I say that should have. Because you know what Arsenal are capable of. Like, they're a very good squad. They just sometimes have gone to pieces where they're half step behind each other or they're just not playing. They played as a whole team. And it really did come together in the second half.
The second half had a lot more movement, looking to switch the point of attack for Arsenal with a lot more urgency than in the first half. The game plan was just there. Now, Sandra, I have to ask this. Did you think at halftime, like Crystal Palace, like, you guys got this? Let's go. You're only down a goal.
I gotta lean into it. I gotta look. I gotta lean into it. I said, hey, anything could happen, right? But at the same time, not this week. Look, Arsenal coming out hungry, conceding a goal in the opening 5 minutes of the game does not bode well for anybody. Even if you somehow manage to get things together and say, let's just get to the half, you still have to play this team in front of you that has so many good pieces. I mean, we're talking Beth Mead getting on this scoreboard with Alessia Russo, who's just sort of seems unstoppable at this point for Arsenal. And so you're still playing that same team that you were struggling to try to contain in that first 45. You have to do it again in the second half. So eventually it just sort of felt like there was a lot of bending and it would break. And that's absolutely what happened. But a 5-piece, the whole 5-piece, that's tough.
But you
That's
know
tough to get in the
what,
office.
Sandra, the glass is half full because, quite frankly, Arsenal gave Palace way too much respect that first half,
They did.
and there should have been more goals. So that's on Arsenal. I'm sure that Renée has them running tape saying, like, here, what went wrong here because you didn't capitalize on nearly enough. Second half performance definitely reflects more of that squad, but like, sorry, Palace, you picked up more yellow cards than goals this match.
Yep.
That's a
Yep.
tough stat, Christine.
Even shots on target as well.
Yes, exactly. Meanwhile, Arsenal had everything to play for in this game, right? A chance to get higher in the table, a chance to start play back on the right foot. and a chance to play for their new manager, because ahead of this match day weekend, Renée Slegers, who had been the interim head coach, had been appointed as the official head coach of Arsenal after 3 months as an interim. She signed a 1.5-year contract. And under Slegers, I mean, she has turned this Arsenal side around just through 12 matches, 11 wins, and 1 draw. Christine, this is what everyone was asking for, the players, the fan, and now it finally came to fruition. Is this what you wanted for Arsenal, for Slegers to be named the head coach?
I mean, yes, once we got past I'd say the talking stage where we were all sort of fantasizing who could potentially be in this coaching role, I think that they gave Renee enough time to prove in the interim spot that she had the capacity to turn this team around entirely, and she's worthy of being the head coach of the Arsenal. And she proved it. She absolutely did. She did a remarkable job of getting the squad to come back together, to buy in. You saw it almost immediately upon Jonas Eidevall's exit, which, usually there's some bit of a manager bump, a new manager, whether it's interim or full appointment. There were other names thrown around. Obviously, that coaching staff is kind of stacked. There's also Kelly Smith. There was lots of chatter over, like, why Renee, how Renee, there's other people there. And I think Renee has proven that this is why Renee Slegers, head coach of the Arsenal, absolutely earned this role, has the capacity, has the team behind her, and now has them playing some of the prettiest ball we've seen in a minute.
Yeah.
Sandra, when you think about our chat with Jonas Eidevall, who's now in the NWSL, I mean, he had lost the locker room at Arsenal, and now Renée Slegers comes in and she turns it around. This is the steps in the right direction. What does this mean for Arsenal this year, now that they have some stability at the head coaching position to start 2025?
I think we've seen it over the last 12 games, and I think we really saw it in the last game against Crystal Palace. I mean, this was a long time coming, and I think whenever you sort of have those kind of coaching shakeups in an organization, there's these general concepts of like what are the priorities going into these roles. And I think for Sledges, you have someone coming into the position who had been with the program already for some time, and you wonder, okay, is it really just about stability? Is it about getting in there and stabilizing things for the players? Yes, it's some of that, but this is Arsenal. These are competitors. This is a team, an organization that we hear year in, year out, who are supposed to be within the top 3, right? Or gunning for, the top spot in Women's Super League. And so, yes, there's that concept of maybe getting the locker room back, offering player stability, but you still have to get in there and turn things around and compete. And it's like, check, check, check. I'm on all those boxes for Coach Renee. And so to see it, kind of her finally get the promotion, it's like, let's move beyond that. You are the one, you are taking this team where we want them to go. But then to see it happen within this particular game against Crystal Palace, when you're talking about 2 teams, very different, in the standings. And then that first 45 minutes where you're talking about maybe they were giving, Arsenal gave Crystal Palace too much respect. You have to wonder, it's like, once you get in that locker room, what is said? What is Renée saying to her team, to the point where they come back out and they say, yes, we are lethal. We are lethal. We are killers. We're going to go out and take it to this team. I say this all the time on the show, that it is not an unfair thing to teams and see where they are on paper, see where they are in the standings, and say, okay, this team should go out there and beat that team. And that's not, it's sport. It's not an unfair thing to say. So I would imagine that there was a little bit of re-energizing motivation that perhaps took place. And I think it comes from that coach. It comes from that staff. Mm-hmm. And we could see this Arsenal side turn things around and make those adjustments in a game when and where necessary. So I think it was a long time coming. 12 games is a long time to sort of be given a trial period. But I like the move, and I think it was the right move. And I think they're going to continue to ride this momentum to close out the season.
Yeah, the club was like, oh, okay, 4 games, 4 wins. Yeah, no, we need longer to determine this.
Yeah, remember, they're still in like FA Cup and Leagues Cup quarterfinals. So like, let's just, in a Sliding Doors episode where Renee comes in, gets appointed head coach officially, and picks up a little piece of silverware, if not the league, that's still massive.
Yes, that's what Arsenal wants. That's the goal for this club. And Sandra, I was not, surprisingly, in the locker room at halftime of Arsenal Crystal Palace. So I don't know what Sledgers said to them, but defender Leah Williamson has talked about how Sledger's greatest quality is her ability to empower people and empower players, and they want to play for her and to succeed for her. The director of women's football at Arsenal, Claire Wheatley, came out with a statement after Sledgers was appointed saying, quote, "We're absolutely delighted. We've known Renée for a long time now, and she brings a level of calm to Arsenal women." Renée Slegers, the new head coach at Arsenal, hoping to take this team to a couple different pieces of hardware.